Okay, Amy, do it again.
Hi, I am Amy McMullen. I live in Windsor and serve on the Mount Ascutney School District Board, as well as the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union Board.
Thanks. Annabelle Park.
Hi, my name's Corinne Park. I'm on my daughter's computer and I can't change my name. I live in Barnard and serve on the Mountain Views, formerly Windsor Central School Board.
I remember you from the Act 46 days.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Anne Marie.
Hello, I'm Anne Marie Redmond. Let me see, I'll put my camera on for a second, but I get bad reception when it's on. So I'm on the Wethersfield School Board as well as the Windsor Southeast School Supervisory Union Board. Hi.
Thanks, Anne Marie. Bill.
I am Bill Yates. I live in West Windsor, right on the border with Windsor. I am the board chair for the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union and on the Mount Ascutney School Board.
Thanks, Bill. Davis.
Hello, I am Davis McGraw from Windsor, Vermont. I am the chair of the Mount Ascutney School District Board, and I'm also a member of the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union Board.
Thanks, Davis. Elliot.
Yep. Elliot Rubin. I live in Plymouth and I'm on the board of the Mountain View Supervisory Union.
Thank you. Gina.
Yes, Gina McAllister. I live in Reading and I serve on the Mountain View Supervisory Union Board.
Excellent. And Jeremy?
Jeremy Warren. I live in White River Junction, and I'm a new member of the Hartford School Board.
Excellent. We're glad you're here. Heather?
I just signed in. You guys caught me so early. I'm assuming we're doing introductions.
Yes, we are.
Okay. I'm Heather Veneta, and I am a member of the Heartland School Board. And ironically, I actually teach at Woodstock Union High School Middle School as well.
Excellent. Okay, Jeremy. Jeremy, you already went. Okay, John Williams, Interiors.
Hi, John Williams. I live in Woodstock and serve on the Mountain Views Supervisory Union Board.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Carrie?
Yes, I'm Carrie Bristow. I live in Woodstock and am the chair of the Mountain Views Supervisory Union / School District.
And Coach?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kevin Coach Christie. I live in White River Junction. I serve on the Hartford School Board. I've been a member since 2007. And I also represent the town of Hartford in the Vermont legislature.
Thanks, Coach. Lydia Locke?
Hi, I live in Pomfret and I serve on the Mountain View Supervisory Union Board.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Megan?
Hello, I am Megan Reed. I live in Windsor, Vermont. I serve on the Mount Ascutney School District and also the Windsor Southeast SU.
Excellent. Thank you. Nancy Pedrick?
I'm Nancy Pedrick, and I live in West Windsor, and I serve on the Mount Ascutney School Board and the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union.
Excellent. And last but certainly not least, Ray Rice. Ray.
Ray Rice from Pittsfield, and I'm on the Pittsfield board, and I'm the representative for the Mountain Views board. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, so are there, I don't think there are any members of the public here besides us. So in that case, I will skip public comment unless anybody raises their hand right now because I missed somebody. But hearing none, I'll move to, did everybody here get a chance to look at the definitions of supervisory union versus supervisory district? No, okay.
I didn't see the email, Elizabeth.
Okay, that's fine. Julie Calhoun, I see that you just joined us. Would you mind coming on and describing who you are and where you live? Okay, I'm just going to read from the this link. Hold on. If somebody wouldn't mind putting the, well, I guess I can do it here. There is the frequently confused terms. And in here, there's the difference between supervisory union and supervisory district. And just to quickly go through them together, supervisory union is a administrative planning and educational service unit for two or more districts. It's not a municipality because each district is its own municipality. It has a governing board, and boards are appointed from members of each school district's board. It has a separate budget from each constituent municipality. And the State Board of Education has the authority to adjust boundaries of a supervisory union. But they have not done it for many decades. A supervisory district consists of one pre-K to 12 school district with one contract, one school board, one budget, one tax rate. And so the reason that if you all did not get my email from last night, then just to reiterate, I included some notes from the meeting of the Commission on the Future of Public Education in Vermont, which I will henceforth just call the Commission. And it also included some notes from last week's redistricting task force. And since I have such a hard time pronouncing redistricting, I'm just going to say task force from here out. And at the commission meeting earlier this week, I asked the commissioners whether they had plans to whether they planned to absolutely keep the supervisory union structure in the in all of this reconfiguration. And what I learned was that the task force, the redistricting task force, which is charged with making up maps of new districts, they are responsible for bringing to the legislature 3 maps, of which 1 must include supervisory unions. And then the legislature can choose out of those maps, or they can choose their own to create their own map. We don't know whether they will or not, but they might not pick a map that includes supervisory unions. And so I think for the purpose of tonight's discussion, we should discuss both. First, whether we think that we would make good. So my proposed agenda for tonight, which I think I also included in a previous email, was public comment, and of which there wasn't any, and then a discussion of whether we think we would make good partners for a supervisory union merger or a supervisory district merger. With the supervisory union merger, it preserves all of the districts, which means that the Mountain Views and Hartford, which are already one district, would remain as they are. And in Windsor Southeast, we would have 3 districts, and then there would be an umbrella supervisory union board over that. If it became a merger into a supervisory district, then all of the districts within Mount Ascutney would just all become one district with everybody else. Yes, Carrie, I see your hand.
Yes, I just want to clarify that we actually are a supervisory union for.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
But we operate as a supervisory district, just so you know. It's because Ray Rice, who's on the call, representing Pittsfield. Pittsfield has choice, but the majority of their students come to us at Killington. They join the Killington. And so we're a little bit tricky here. So we're a high, but we operate as a supervisory district. We have a merged contract and all of those things. But technically, we are a supervisory union, at least for the time being.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. I really appreciate that. So, my thought was that we could first discuss the notion of a supervisory union, joining a supervisory union together, and then a supervisory district. Then we could sort of touch back on a regional high school discussion, and then if we do decide that we would like to try to work together, then I'd love to talk about putting together a letter to bring to the task force for their next meeting, kind of laying out what where we are. Yes, Bill.
I don't mind getting us kicked off on the.
Excellent.
It's I think for transition purposes, I think a really good starting point would be the supervisory model. At the same time, I strongly feel that if we transition these 3 areas into a supervisory, then I think it makes sense for the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union to merge into a district first. Just to have 3, not necessarily equal partners, but 3 equal districts, approximately the same size, come together. And the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union at this point, works so well together. I don't see that as a big leap to work on that if our goal is if our end goal is to merge into a larger SU.
I know what you were just saying, but I think what you were just saying, because you said supervisory, and I didn't hear you say union.
Right. So if the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union becomes a district, I think that would be the first step into creating a larger supervisory union. And so it would be basically the Windsor supervisory, a Windsor supervisory district, a Hartford school district, which is a single district, and then what the Mountain View functions as a supervisory district, creating a much larger supervisory union. I think that is the logical stepping off point.
I gotcha. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for kicking us off with that, Bill. I appreciate it. Corinne?
Thanks. Thanks, Bill. I had similar thoughts. I've been wrestling with this idea of SU versus SD and looking at the advantages of each, and having gone through the sort of consolidation process in our multi-town, multiple towns merging, not all at once. Barnard was a holdout, and there was a whole, I thought, very productive, democratic process of us negotiating how and around what agreements to come together as a district. That was really helpful, but it has proven helpful in many ways to be a unified district especially of elementaries, all leading into one high school. I mean, we can get into nitty gritty, but one advantage of sort of a smaller contingent of districts, and you guys, the Windsor Southeast has been working together. You have ties, communal ties, community ties, and some solidarity, having worked as an SU, I would imagine, and that can be helpful for coming together as a district. I think that it is helpful for us to maintain some multiplicity of districts under an SU for the sort of democratic representation that it affords in our school system. But being 3 districts under one SU probably achieves, some level of efficiency, and that's just a catch-all term for a lot of different things we can look at, that I think could be helpful for educational goals. So I'm glad that you put that out there, Bill. I had been thinking similar things. Of course, neither of us is a part of either of those districts, so we're talking about other folks doing things, but with that caveat, it's an interesting structure to look at.
Thank you for that, Corinne. Carrie, I see your hand.
Yes, thanks. I've had to keep my camera off mostly because it doesn't work very well. When the camera's on, I get a lot of pausing and I don't know, weird sounds. But in any case, I know that it was a very difficult work to merge all of the contracts on the 7 towns. when this consolidation happened. And I was a teacher at the time and part of the union, and I worked on that. And I don't know how Windsor Southeast works now, if you have a merged contract with benefits or as every school has separate things, because those were some of the things that took the most of our time, was along with articles of agreement around closure and intra-district school choice and things like that. That was a very painful but ultimately fruitful process, because we brought everybody up to the highest level. And so it meant that in some cases, people were stalled for 3 or 4 years, not getting a raise, whereas others had, in one case, a $14,000 gap for a teacher in one school who, if she had been in another school, would have made $14,000 more dollars. So it had to be done over time, took 3 years. But in the end, it was the best thing because it raised everybody up. The other piece is that I don't know how you operate, but once things settled and the curriculum became merged, it really made a big difference as to where they arrived in middle school, if the elementaries were all using the same curriculum. And I don't know, I guess I'd need to know a little bit more how it works in Windsor Southeast, but those were big gains for us. It was an extremely painful process, and I'm not sure the legislature really understands how trying to make us even bigger and merge and figure it out. It will be, I have my own private views on that, loss of identities, etc. But those were things that were nuts and bolts things that took a long time, but we all worked together on it, and it did, in the end, benefit everybody. Thanks.
Just to fill in those blanks for you, we do, our supervisor, Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union, does have merged contracts, and we do have merged curriculum, and we do have a shared administrative level. So we have shared special education, we have shared technology, we have some shared buildings, maintenance stuff, and we have shared food. Yeah. So we've already been through that.
So it sounds like it wouldn't be terribly difficult to do what Bill is suggesting.
Well, the big stumbling block is that everybody would have to Wethersfield and Heartland would have to relinquish school choice. And I'm not sure that they are even close to being there yet. Anne Marie, I see your hand.
Yeah, I was going to say, mainly with school choice, but also with voting on the budget. I think it's a big priority of the members of Wethersfield, the community members in Wethersfield, that to maintain that independence. I'm not sure how it would go if there was a vote.
I hate to tell you this, Anne Marie, but
I know we don't have a choice probably coming up, but
well, we won't be voting on budgets anymore unless we're voting on going beyond what we are allotted by whoever it is who allots it.
Yeah, I think people are not really realizing that yet, and I think when they do, it's going to be people are going to be pretty upset. But we've tried to tell them what's happening, but not sure that they're listening. That's all.
Bill?
Well, I think it also, not to jump the gun on, regional high school discussions, so I won't go there, but, basically right now we're looking at, talking about school choice, we're looking at 2 of the 3 SUs that are in this discussion with significant construction needs. And so however those needs are tackled, the ability to focus the education of high school students in some way meaningful is there. And so these sort of difficulties always create opportunity. And it may just be a way to create a system in which we have a single regional high school, 2 SU high schools, and to meet the needs of Northwest Windsor County, and another one that meets the needs of Northeast Windsor County. Those are opportunities based upon a need.
Yes, Corinne.
I just wanted to ask about what high schools. So it's both Heartland and Wethersfield have choice for high school, and can we put on the table so I understand sort of the lay of the land, like what high schools are within our region, and or are there high schools outside of the 3 SUs that students from those towns access?
Anne Marie, would you like to speak to that?
Well, I can speak to it for Wethersfield. I believe about half of our students currently go to Windsor. A little over a quarter go to Woodstock, and then most of the rest go to Springfield, although that number's been going down year after year. We have a few that go to private schools. We have some that go over to Fall River in New Hampshire. But just like 1 or 2 for like these other things. But the majority of half the students go to Windsor, quite a few go to Woodstock, and then I think about 10 or 12 go to Springfield. 10 or 12% go to Springfield.
And then is there somebody here? Heather, are you still here or did you leave? Who is here from Heartland who can? I don't know whether Heather is.
I know the data.
It's not, it's like many go to Hartford.
Yeah,
a couple go to Woodstock, and then many go to Thetford and Sharon, probably split in half, right?
Well, you're missing the biggest block of Hanover.
Oh, Hanover, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's about 20 students or so that go to Hanover. It's got to be 30 or 40 that go to Hartford, and then 10 or 15 go to Woodstock, and then 10, 15 go to Windsor.
And there's a couple that go to KUA.
Yeah.
And by the way, somewhere along the line, I think I wrote in one of my emails that the total of the students from all of our supervisory units are around 3,800, not around 3,000. So we're pretty close to the benchmark of 4,000. And I asked that one of my friends who serves on the task force whether 3,800 would get us there, and she said that probably they'll be more flexible with the numbers than we think. So it was really surprising at the last task force meeting, the degree to which some of the task force members are utterly unfamiliar with our school system and how our statewide educational geography. It was really, it was a little bit shocking, but but now they know, but they were surprised by, for example, what a map might do to the northeast portion of our state, and how many, like, we already have a supervisory union with 13 districts inside it. Like, how many more it would require in order to get up to the number of 4,000 in the Northeast Kingdom. Carrie, I see your hand.
Yes. I don't think that the people making these have any idea what these numbers mean, 4,000 to 8,000. And I think it will change, and it will not necessarily be required that you have 4,000 to 8,000 in your district. We don't have enough kids for that, really. I mean, we're not Burlington, we're not Brattleboro, etc. We have rural towns in all three of our districts. We have, rural situations. So I don't worry too much about the 4,000. As you know, we are committed to building a school, primarily because at any moment, including today, the school that is in Woodstock could shut down because of major septic issues, major electrical issues, major heating issues, major roof failures, major everything you could ever imagine could happen. And the custodians, staff, and they keep it working, but at some point it's not going to work. So the plan is, at this point, it's still not firm, is to build a school that has the capacity of 1,000. Although initially it may not have, all of the space completely done. But we're moving forward with this because what would we do if the building failed? Hartford can't fit us in with their problems. You guys don't have capacity for our 457 through 12 kids. And we've got Killington and Pittsfield on the outside of us. So we have a kind of a wider district in many ways. So we're moving forward with this, and we don't know if we will do a bond in the spring. It's possible, but the funding situation with the coupling of per pupil spend combined with capital spending hamstrings every single budget in the state, because it doesn't take much money to run you over the top if you're close to the level of spending that's allowed now, which we're over it actually, and our voters voted for it. You may have read in the papers, there was quite the revolt around cutting things in the arts and the languages, and the voters, wanted to put it back in, and they supported it. So we are actually over the penalty threshold right now. And if we just keep our budget static with the raises and the health insurance rising, we will be over it again in the next year. And we just hope that the voters will support it, because this is what they want. This is what they asked for. And we had many very difficult meetings last fall trying to figure out, where do you cut when you don't want to cut? So we are moving forward. We have, the space on the current site is there. There's septic, and there's also water available. And so the land is there, so we don't have to purchase anything. And we're going to move forward and see what happens. And if it gets shot down again, we'll see what happens next. But that's the plan for the board right now. And I just want to make sure you all understand that, because we're not going to back off at this point unless some big, red flag comes up in the next several months.
Could somebody from Hartford just quickly also update us on the status of Hartford buildings?
Coach, do you want to take that one? You've probably got a little more experience than me. I know that we have the PCB issue that is ongoing, and that fluctuates depending on how the testing goes. We do have older boilers and heating concerns. We have bond money that has not been spent but has been earmarked for projects that were put on hold until we get a broader answer or response from the state in regards to the PCB issue. We're actively pursuing a corrective action plan for that has to be reviewed by the state before any funding is released. But that's pretty much where we're at with the PCBs in the high school. I know that there's been other roof projects that are completed with some of the other schools, but
the elementary capacities, to pick up on where Jeremy left off, they were designed to expand. So that's a given, and a lot of that was around the growth of the Upper Valley itself. So that was the contingency in the architectural design of Dothan Brook and Ottauquechee, which are the two newest, of the structures. White River Elementary is confined, by space. So maximum capacity is roughly about 250. Let's see, Dothan Brook, we're looking at 300, and then Quechee is very close to that same number. As far as the high school itself goes, Jeremy was pretty up to date as far as the status of the PCB related classrooms, because there's parts of the high school that are affected, and then there's parts that aren't. Some of that is due to the additions that have come along over time. At one point, we had a graduating class of over 300, because my daughter was in that class. And at that point, the capacity of the school, or I should say the cohort in the high school, was close to 1,000 kids. So the infrastructure, space, if everything was mitigated, we'd, that would be what the capacity would be. And as far as again, design, it's a matter of having the site capability to maintain that that extra capacity, if that helps.
That does. Thank you, Coach. Okay, what I'd like to, and if anybody would prefer something different, please speak up. But what I would like to do is, what I'd like to do is ask. Oh, here comes John Arison. Good. What I'd like to do is ask everybody to raise their digital hand if they think that, if they agree in principle that we would make good partners in a supervisory union structure. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
As someone who has, and I know there's others of you who have associations with all three but the reality is that curriculum-wise, philosophy-wise, and basic need to serve the community, all of these towns and all these supervisory unions are very similar in many, many ways. And as we've all gone through mergers of some sort, it's not an easy process. At the same time, though, with these communities that are so closely linked and have many shared values, I don't foresee it being difficult to work together.
Well, I think we have a lot of the characteristics that it would take to successfully work together. We are close in proximity. We have a highway in the middle. We do share a lot of the same kind of governance characteristics. I've looked through the policies that all three of the these supervisory units have, and they're all very similar. They're not identical, and I think that's a good thing. Carrie, I see your hand. Is that a residual hand or is that a new hand?
It's a residual hand.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's all right. Okay. I want to ask Ray Rice. Where are you? How are you feeling right now?
Fine. Everything's fine. Oops. Yeah, I'm here.
How do you feel about all of this?
Well, Pittsfield has been through a lot through the years. I've actually been on the board for like 15 years. We changed supervisory unions from Windsor Northwest, and we were up with Bethel, Rochester, and the northern towns for all the years of Pittsfield. Before I came, about 75% of our students go south to Killington and Woodstock. I mean, as a choice town, the town loves choice and stuff, but we've always worked to just make it financially the best deal for our town. And we were one of the first to do a governance study way back when we moved to Mountain Views. And to be honest, it's been a great move to Mountain Views, though we do have students that go, out to other schools, and to your Killington Mountain School is a popular, we're a very athletic town, as we all are, everybody's towns are. And so we have a great draw for high athletics and students and parents who love that aspect of Pittsfield, but it doesn't change. Sorry to get long-winded, but our hardest thing is that we can have 10 kids move in one summer and then 10 kids move out next summer. So we're kind of sometimes caught in the ADM, and but we have been able to save a lot of money, and it was a very positive move to Mountain Views, and it's been great for us. Chris Sperber is our chair. She handles all the finances. She's been on the board longer, and so she's very good at all this. And we're prepared to move forward with the world because that's what education is. And our kids, I got to be honest, if I had anything to say, I had 3 kids matriculate through Killington Elementary into Woodstock. One went to Harvard, and they are incredible. And all the kids that have come from Pittsfield, many of them are doing like incredible work, and from the schools here, from going to these schools. So I'm impressed, and it's been great for us. So, yeah, we're into it. You'll bring proposals in Pittsfield to look at them, and we'll see what the money says.
All right. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Elizabeth?
Yes, Coach.
It's interesting. We've having been part of the legislature going through, 46, 27, all of the ideations of change in that perspective, and listening to exactly what you said earlier about a lot of folks not understanding the nature of education in Vermont. And I think we have to approach this with an open mind. And when I say that, I'm thinking in terms of not just the status quo, because it would be easy for us, for example, in Hartford to say, we escaped Act 46, basically, as an SD, because we had the infrastructure and the strength to do so. But what does that mean today?
It doesn't mean anything today. That's not happening today.
No, but that's my point.
Yeah. Right.
in thinking, with an open mind and thinking a little more visionary, and we really haven't had this discussion, but just as an educator in Vermont, looking at how the structures within Vermont that have worked well and that we all draw on, for example, special needs programming. We have 5 special needs programs or special programs in Hartford that you all are part of. Okay, so there's a family connection there already. The tech center is connected to us collectively. Who's to say, if we come to consensus that a regional high school is the best, approach, what that does is it leaves the capability of expanding those programs that already serve our region within the confines of our existing structure. Because, for example, the tech center is located in the high school facility. It's an adjunct, but that would allow for that expansion and an offering of more services at the tech center level, and also at the special needs areas as well. And what's fascinating about it is, Elizabeth and I were talking about transportation. The transportation infrastructure is already designed there because the buses are already running and people are already going into that area. So I know that might seem a little odd for us to say, or somebody from there to say, and I'm not speaking for our board. This is just, 45 years of being part of the education infrastructure in that area. So I just thought I'd throw it out.
Thank you for that, Coach. Carrie, I see your hand.
Yes, I've really given a lot of thought to, how these merges could work and what would be beneficial and so forth. And what comes back to me is that our 3 communities use the Hartford Career Technical Center, and perhaps some in Wethersfield, for example, might use the one in Springfield, but we already have a career and technical center here around our districts that we are using. And it occurs to me that if down the road we look at intra-district school choice, it could be that Hartford students coming from Windsor, Woodstock, wherever they're coming from, they might choose to matriculate to Hartford and stay their whole day at Hartford for the 2 years. I've heard that from students, when I was working, that it was a rough, that the bus ride was rough. The time that they missed out of classes, sometimes they had to miss classes to go on that bus, whether they were juniors or seniors. So there are possibilities here. again, if we build a high school, perhaps we would want to merge with a middle school, either Hartford or Windsor. I mean, there's a lot of things to think about around what we could do if we're all one big district that has separate choices and separate foci on various things. So I mean, we've got some small elementary schools in our district, we've got some big ones in these 3 school districts supervisory unions. So we would have some opportunity to think about geographically what works, and as well as what's best for kids, which is our number one reason for being involved on a school board, is we want what's best for kids. I can say that, I can speak for our district to say that we've made a huge initiative on reading, literacy, and math, and the scores have come up quite a lot, which is really shocking because it's really hard to raise scores in a big way. And it came down to, hiring some people to counsel what to use and how to do it. And a lot of time and resources through ESSER and all of that went into that during the pandemic and the post-pandemic. And so, each of our schools, no doubt, have things that they can utilize to affect kids who want the career in trade center. I mean, I think it's a wonderful option. I wish my son had taken it, but he didn't. And, there's also opportunities in the Windsor Southeast around, your schools and the different things that you offer. And if initially it would be challenging to sort of start promoting all this, but down the road, we could look regionally as to, okay, what is this school known for? What are they the farm to school school? And the elementary schools can, there's possibilities here that we can't even really talk about now, but we can think about and say down the road, what do we really want? And if we are forced into 3,000 to 4,000 kids in a district, I think there are ways that we could all, work together, first of all, and try to make it work for the best case scenario for students. Geographically, it's not that long of a bus ride to any of our schools, unless you live in Killington. It's a long bus ride for Killington. But the rest of the towns, it's not that long to get from one school to another. Between Reading and West, and West Windsor is 10-12 minutes to go between schools. 7 minutes. Maybe it's slower on a bus, but I think that as we move forward and think about the opportunities, we can find them. And I think that is what we really need to look forward to, is what are the opportunities that we can get by agreeing to be in whatever they call us, a supervisory union or I don't know what the terms escape me at times, but I think it could work. I really do.
Thank you for that, Carrie. Bill, I see your hand.
Carrie touched on many of the points that I was processing, and I think I just want to say it in a different way, more assertively, probably. The state of Vermont has failed monumentally in long-term planning. Just completely has failed in the last 50 years. I think the opportunity to create a larger supervisory union creates the opportunity that for us to look at planning and strategizing for the next 50 years, 10 years out, 20 years out, 50 years out. The reality, if we decide or are forced to become a larger educational institute, there's no logical way for us to start closing schools willy-nilly and move kids into a centralized location. That's not possible. Anything like that is going to be extremely disruptive and be counterproductive. But there are things that can happen. We have a lot of schools that are close to each other. We have a lot of schools that are on the end date of their productivity. When you start looking at 50 years is a lifespan of a school. And actually, it's a little longer than the normal lifespan. And when you look at the elementary schools around us, and the middle schools and the high schools, there's a lot of construction needs. But construction needs are secondary, unless you're to the point of Woodstock High School, to looking at what works best for the community, what works best financially, and what works best educationally. And that takes long-term planning. The state's not going to do it for us because, as we all know, many people at the state level and many people don't have a grasp of what educational institutes do, how they work, and how they function. And I think that these three supervisory unions working together can come up with ways to move forward in more effective and logical long-term planning.
I really appreciate all of these comments. I really do. I think there's a lot of hope and realism here. Heather, I see your hand. Thank you.
No problem. I just want to say that, like, this is our chance to, like, do what we want to do before our hand is forced. And so for me, sort of living in both worlds of, like, Heartland School Board, but also, like, teaching at one of these high schools, to me, I'm just ready to, like, jump in and see what we can do with all of us talking about this, getting our communities behind this before the state is like, this is what you have to do. Because I would rather come with a plan than have the state plan it for us.
Thank you, Heather. I suspect that the state will just throw us together without a plan and without anything else. That's what I suspect. But what do I know? That's just based on history. But I agree with you. Davis, I see your hand.
Yep. Thanks. Sorry, it's taking me a sec to get online here. Yeah, no, and just to kind of go off of a lot of these great comments on what Heather's saying too, I think the advantage of looking first at that supervisory union structure, Bill, I hear what you're saying about the advantages of the current Windsor Southeast becoming a single district. What I think I like about the SU structure from all of these communities represented here is that we don't necessarily have to make some of those more like micro choices before creating this larger unit, because I know that can take a long time to work out, those individual issues of choice and contracts and whatnot. But if we start moving at the higher level towards an SU, we still have some of the ability to continue working with at some levels below to figure that out, rather than just having one large supervisory district that sort of erases all of those lines and some of that complexity that exists.
Just to clarify, we don't know whether we have a choice.
Right.
So the first one was, obviously a supervisory union structure would be the easiest for us. And so if we agree in principle, we are agreeing in principle to the supervisory union option, because that actually, we basically just create an umbrella structure, right? But the question is, do we feel the same in a supervisory district structure where Heartland and Wethersfield are relinquishing choice? Not saying, just to clarify, I am not saying, would we choose a supervisory district instead? I am saying, would Heartland and Weathersfield still choose these same people as partners, knowing that we are going to be merged? That is the fact that we do know. We are going to be merged with other supervisory units one way or another. And
Yeah, and just to clarify, Elizabeth, I understand that framework. I'm saying that insofar as we can ideate about this, I think that that's a sensible way of ideating. I do appreciate that that ultimate decision doesn't really come down to us probably, but if there's any advantage to putting that before the folks in the commission and maybe making a case, I'm in support of that particular way of planning this.
Thanks, Davis. And I don't, if any of you didn't get a chance to read my email from last night, at the end of it were some notes that were taken by one of the task force members about the last task force meeting. Although I also attended the last task force meeting. She just circulated her minutes and made it easier for me. Corinne, have you taken your hand down?
I did, but I'll just say it was really just, I was gonna mention that, right, the extent to which we may be able to influence what happens, not that something will happen, but we do have the opportunity in any case to, if we want to, right?
Yes.
Right to the task force. And I think that a lot of this conversation has been really great in terms of putting some ideas out there as to what we might point to in such a letter for the rationale for how we want to move forward together and the reasons why. And obviously, you know, that's the process of drafting something like that is you know, there's still work there, but I think this conversation has been really fruitful in terms of identifying some of the reasons why working together as communities with you know, similar interests, where we will be able to identify the opportunities best, you know, in that sort of democratic fashion, and sort of bringing that to the fore in a letter, such if we write one, I think is important.
Well, that was how I was going to end this meeting, was by asking for a volunteer from each of the supervisory units who's not me, to help draft a letter for the task force. So thank you for that. Coach, I see your, Carrie, I see your hand, and then Coach, you're next.
Yes, I was just going to say that I've read through many of the transcripts of these meetings, and it does appear that they will be limiting choice schools to perhaps 2 or 3 choices. So I think, you know, there seems to be a master plan that limits choice, even though right now there's evidently full choice as to where a student in grades 9 through 12 wants to go. I get the idea that they're going to try to limit that. So if that's the case, that's another thing to keep in mind as we move forward in our planning. I was rather shocked to see the list of approved schools that included many ski schools. And, you know, having worked briefly in one ski school nearby me for a year, the education was not certainly not what was being delivered in the high school I used to work at. So I question why those ski schools all made it onto the approved list of those who could still receive funding versus the ones that were axed off the list for various reasons. But again, that's another story for another time. I will be attending the September 29th meeting with a fellow board member, Gina. McAllister, who's on this call, and I've been told that they would like to ask me some questions about SUs and SDs. So if any of you would like to send me any of your thoughts on that, please do, because we went from an SU to essentially an SD. And from our perspective, it really simplified a lot of things. But there are things that some of you may have to tell me that would be helpful in if I am indeed asked any questions at that meeting.
But in fairness, just you also were an SU, but everybody went to Woodstock. Everybody
Yes.
was already going to Woodstock. So that's different from
Yes.
us.
Yep.
Where, yeah.
Yes. You have two towns with choice. Yeah.
Yeah. The other, oh, well, it doesn't matter. Okay, Coach, I see your hand, and then Heather.
I guess at least what I'm sensing from our conversation, tonight, and, I have to be, open about, my personal feelings about how we got here, having spent 6 years on house education. And a lot of your thoughts are accurate around how our work was done or not done. That being said, the true strength is in what is going on tonight. We are stronger together. And when I look around this screen, and I know most of you either directly or indirectly, this confab has it, and we have the capability and ability to make it work for our communities. And that is, and I mean that as heartfelt as I can be. And we just need to keep our energy focused around our kids in our communities, and we'll get to where we need to go, as this, whatever we choose to call it at the end. You notice I've tried to stay away from, naming this thing, but, our child that we're working with, has a lot of potential, and I see it as being the superstar in the state. And that's just my feeling about all of this.
Thank you, Coach. Heather, you're up.
I just have a question because I don't know if I understand something. So if I'm representing Heartland, Heartland is, one of the school choice towns. So I'm wondering if does Heartland have to merge? Does Heartland have to be part of all of these things that we're talking about? Because, we have a large population in Heartland who move to Heartland so that they have school choice. And I know that the fact that school choice is probably going to be taken away is something that is, obviously very scary for a lot of Heartland families. So I'm just wondering, for a town like Heartland and Wethersfield, I think I just need some more information about what happens with school choice in both of these two situations. If we become a supervisory union or a supervisory district.
In a supervisory union, school choice would be maintained. By definition, in a supervisory district, everybody goes to the one school.
That's accurate.
Bill, I see your hand.
Well, I just kind of want to review what happened with West Windsor. we merged with Windsor and we lost school choice. All my older children, my siblings have multi-generations of children. And most of our children of my siblings went to Woodstock. In the merging, the next group of children, my youngest son in particular, will go to is Windsor High School. Yes, I know, Heather. You had them all. But what happened is there was in losing school choice, it really wasn't as dramatic as you might have feared. It basically, sixth graders at a particular cutoff point lost school choice. So when we merged, the sixth graders in that class were able to have school choice. And then as the classes move forward, they no longer had school choice. So school choice was never taken away from somebody. Somebody who decided to go to Hartford, for example, didn't have to stop going to Hartford. A sixth grader at that time who was planning to go to Woodstock didn't have to change their plans to go someplace else. And so it affected the more flexible younger students and the parents of younger students. There was basically two families who were particularly upset. There's probably more, but there were two families who had just recently moved to West Windsor because of school choice, and they moved because they had very young children, and they made that choice to go someplace else. And so overall, the impact was not dramatic.
We did
And I'm
have
not
some families being tricky about it,
Yes.
Phil,
Yes.
and
Those that lied and
yeah. And there are some people who are still very upset about it. I mean, just to be clear, there are
Yes.
people who remain upset about it. So I'd like to hear just for the next few. Okay, first of all, I'd like to hear from John Arison about the voting wards because he can explain it very well and I can't. John, where are you?
Good evening.
Hi. Glad you could be with us.
The task of the voting ward is, from my perspective anyway, I applied and didn't make the second cut. But anyway, it's pretty straightforward. And the hardest charge is going to be how many school board members do we have in the new units? 5, 9, 11. You need enough to get the work done, but you don't want so many that it becomes clumsy and doesn't work well. After that, the way I envisioned it was that the AOE's already started maps that can be populated, and you would look at a populated map with the boundaries of the existing SUs on it and the boundaries of the existing representative districts, and that gives you a population, because it needs to be set up as close as you can, one person, one vote, just like the House of Representatives. So the division, it may look something like the senatorial districts, but I think you'll find that these SUs, let's say it's Windsor County, and you could almost divide it up into fifths maybe, or maybe sevenths, and fill in the population by doing simple math, and work your magic with the numbers, because the most important thing that group's got to do is to come up with an appropriate number of school board members, and B, get it as close to one person, one vote as you can get it. That's about it.
So there is the confusing part there is that is separate from the redistricting task force, and it's ideally the redistricting task force would have the same time frame as the voting ward working group, but they do not.
I can add to that.
I see your hand. What's that?
I can add to that because the language
Yeah.
of 73, the ward group is supposed to start their work before they know where the district boundaries are. And that will be really difficult and probably at least a moderate amount of wasted time and energy speculating where the boundaries are going to be. And until sometime in probably early February, when the districts are definitely defined by the vote of the legislature, then the ward group really could sit down and do the work. But the way 73 is written, you're supposed to start your work with guessing where the districts are going to be.
Thanks, John. Corinne, I see your hand.
Thanks. Yeah, just a question to clarify what you mean by trying to get close to one person, one vote. Do you mean that the number of people a member of the board would represent would be about the same as the other members, something like that?
Yeah, let's in simple math. If your district had 10,000 people and you had 5 school board members, you would attempt to divide it up so that each ward had 2,000 residents, and that a little bit simple on the math, but not too far off.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, let's hear from some people who we haven't heard from yet. Stacy, I don't think we've heard from you. What are your thoughts about all of this? You don't have to answer if you're not feeling like answering.
Yeah, hold on. Just let me step out for one sec. So, yeah, I'm a parent of 2 children in Weathersfield. We recently moved here about a year ago, in regards to the school system specifically. We relocated from Springfield, and the only reason for relocation was related to the fact that the school system here had more opportunity for our children. So I am hesitant about school choice as a parent with who really dedicated a lot of commitment over a few years to put ourselves here in Weathersfield. My kids are young, they're 6 and 8, so first and second graders. I am realistic in knowing that we do have to do something and change is going to happen and we have to accept that. But I also think, I think who we partner with, how we partner, and the strategic decisions that we make are really going to need to be considered. I think that that's really my overview.
Thanks, Stacy.
Yeah.
I wonder what people think about if 3,800 doesn't wind up being enough and the legislature does want us to get over 4,000. In which direction should we stretch? Should we stretch up to Norwich? Should we stretch over or south? Does anybody have strong feelings about that? I mean, it's not.
I think
likely.
that the first step. I think stretching in any direction would be a good thing. I think
Would be a what?
A good thing.
Okay, thank you.
I think stretching to Norwich would be a good step. Looking into Cavendish and that area as well. If kids are coming from Pittsfield, then it makes complete sense to go in that direction. And so I think if we are, as a collective group, organized, thoughtful, I think others will join us. And so I'm not particularly worried about making it the 4,000. It's kind of one of those things that the field of dreams, build it and they will come. If you create something good enough, others will join us. I don't foresee it to be a problem.
Anne Marie, I see your hand.
I do worry stretching south, just given the voters in some of the districts to the south of us and their willingness to support their local schools with their school budgets. Springfield has an extremely low per pupil spending rate, yet their budget is voted down year after year. So I would be very hesitant to merge with Springfield.
I second that.
Hear, hear.
Okay. There are some strong feelings. Davis and then Anna.
Yeah, and I would agree with that as well. I think that as far as a kind of unifying principle, being willing to spend on our people's education is really important. And I'm glad you brought that up, Anne Marie. I just had one kind of process going forward question, because I may have to jump off here in a minute. Elizabeth, you had mentioned having some sort of letter of intent that is collaborated on by members of a different unit, or a letter of intent or letter of agreement. I don't know the best way to term that. But I guess just, yeah. So what were you going to say, Elizabeth?
I was going to say I would really love to have a volunteer from each of the supervisory units, so district,
okay,
or union, to draft a letter to send to the redistricting task force, because quite a few of the other groups around the state are already doing that, and I have heard from 3 of the task force members that yes, it does actually matter and it does have weight.
Okay, no, that's good to know, and that's one of my questions was what unit were you thinking?
It is worth it.
Down to the smallest unit. I just so I understand the process, should I assume that we would also be voting on each of those in our district units or our smallest units? I think I just want to make sure that if we're taking an action like sending something to the state commission, there's also, we're putting the weight of our boards behind those actions.
We could, if we could get a vote before the 29th, which I know Windsor Southeast could.
Yeah, I know it's a tight timeline, but I think
it is kind of a tight
that's
timeline.
important.
But actually, if you could,
consideration.
I think if it was drafted first, we could have each perhaps vote on it. Anna?
Okay, sorry.
Coach, I'm going to change the topic a little bit. So if you wanted to tag on to Davis's comment, by all means, go for it.
As far as the letter, technically this meeting was warned by all of our individual groups that had potentially more than a quorum, or at least a quorum, at the meeting. And I'm thinking about in that sense, for us in Hartford, being that we did warn that. Jeremy, if you would consider, being, our drafter, I'd be happy to give you any support I can. But right now, as far as the other things, I've got a couple other projects that I'm kind of working on, and I'd like to be able to give it, that intensity. Would you consider being our rep, please?
I might not, just from the greenness of my school board knowledge. I do. I think personally supporting it, I think I do. But yeah,
what I'm going to say is, but what you do bring, is a vitality to the discussion. And I mean that, you're a Hartford grad,
I appreciate
bring
that.
that,
I'm a school choice from Heartland too.
right. You bring a little different perspective, and I
I'd
think
be happy to
that's one.
collaborate as an individual, but not
Yeah.
act on behalf as the board. I think,
Yeah.
just because we actually just had our meeting last night, so we wouldn't actually have a chance to meet again unless we called a special meeting before the 29th. But I'm happy to add my name as a collaborator or contributor for sure to this group. I think it's important to get organized. My greatest fear is that we'll go through all of this work, and I hope that it has weight, and that the state will just do something.
Well, I mean, one of the there are a few right now. The maps that they're looking at between last week and the 29th include countywide, just county, and one is a CTE, and then I believe one is a statewide. They're actually, not that they are exploring doing a statewide, but they are testing the map tool by running a statewide on it.
Geographically and infrastructure wise, it makes sense. I mean, and I hope that they see that. So I would agree.
And by the way, nobody's asking anybody to write a letter on behalf of all of these groups.
Right. And that's what I'm getting at, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Nobody's a monolith here.
Right.
All right.
And I if you drop me a text, I'll share how we can come together to help the rest of our board members, with that. And, we've got a small board, so we can still do this collaboratively.
Anna.
Good evening, all. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. I'm Anna. I'm from Reading, sit on the Mountain Views District School Board, and I see Davis has given me a thumbs up. It's similar to what Coach was saying, seeing how many people in this group that I don't sit with on a board, but work in other ways and interface with other ways. It's really refreshing, and I'll dare to say exciting of what may come of all of this. I just wanted to share that myself and Corinne have been Corinne far more than I, but doing a bit around the rural schools. And so having representation for, the Albert Bridges and the Reddings and the Barnards are going to be really important, as my expectation, as it's been always for us, is we're always sort of the low-hanging fruit. So that's something that is on my mind, along with transport times between schools. When we talk about, sure, from here to Albert Bridge is 8 minutes, and we've already got after-school program overlapping between Reading and Albert Bridge. Another good point as to how well our districts and unions would come together. Bill, I do not know your sister. And I wanted to say, there was mention of another district that has a very low per pupil cost, and getting supporters behind that as far as the voting community. What I will say is, we discussed this, and Corinne, I ask you to fact check me as I speak on this. We were talking about this specific topic, and maybe in that specific school district, in that while it presents a very low per pupil cost, it turns out they actually spend more per pupil than many of the districts around us. And it's mirrored as a small per pupil cost because they get so much in subsidiaries and federal funds that don't go into their per pupil cost. So just to sort of make sure that everyone's aware that there are a little bit of smoke and mirrors behind all of this, and that just because their per pupil cost is low doesn't mean that they don't actually spend more per pupil than is, not that it's been hidden per se or actively hidden. It's just that it's on paper is not quite what it actually is in the background. So just wanted to put that on the radar. And I'm so honored and grateful and excited to be part of this group. And everything I'm hearing is as expected, but also again so refreshing as far as the collaboration and this idea that all of us are going to bring something awesome to the table, and if we all bring something awesome, we can't do anything but be awesome, right? So lots of hard work, and it's exciting.
I think we are extremely lucky, actually, to have congenial neighbors to the degree that we do. Bill and then Carrie. Thank you for that, Anna. Sorry, Anna.
Bill, you're muted.
It's probably best for me muted because everything out of my mouth usually gets me in trouble. So Anna, I mentioned my sister Susan because she is a special ed teacher who at Reading as well as Woodstock Elementary.
My gratitude and honor goes to your sister for doing that
thank
work.
you.
It's so important.
I started to switch back on who can work on this letter. I mean, I'd be happy to work on it. I think Davis is much more qualified than I am, so I'd like to kind of push him in that direction. Sort of say, "Hey, Davis, this is right up your alley." But I'd also be willing to put the time into it. Because I know Elizabeth, you couldn't do that.
I'm quickly losing capacity to do this kind of stuff. So and maybe we should switch to that. Carrie, do you have something else to add?
Yeah, yes, I would be more than happy to be a collaborator on the document that we want to send to the state. And I would even be happy to hand deliver it on the 29th if you wish. And I'm probably not the best originator of the letter, but I am good at editing as well as refining and getting rid of stuff that doesn't need to be in the letter. And I have no problem sharing it with a couple of my board members who are also very good at editing to make sure that it really gets to what we want it to say regarding our voluntary willingness to merge and consider merging. And I think that that this really could move us forward and settle our nerves around what's going to happen to us versus what we're choosing to say we want to be as a bigger district at this time. Who knows in the end what the outcome will be, but at least we have made some kind of agreement that we want to work together and that we see ourselves as viable and equitable partners in this work as we head, towards the next step.
Okay, here's what I propose. I propose that we rotate or alternate who puts these meetings together. So the next organizer has to be either from Mountain Views or from Hartford. And I think we should. Well,
I have a Zoom account, so I'm happy to originate that.
But the question is, do we wait until the task force has come out with or has gotten further down the road with how they're going to do the maps, or do we just continue our work now and hope that the task force catches up with us?
I personally think it's best to tell them this is what we want to do.
This is what we're doing.
And this is, we think we are great partners and we will do what we have to do to work together to forge a bigger district.
Is there anybody on this call who thinks we should wait until after the task force has gotten further down the road.
I think being proactive is really
Yeah.
the best step.
Okay. Okay. So with that in mind, I think that ideally, one person, one volunteer from or more, but at least one person from each of the three supervisory units. Is there anybody from Hartford who would like to help? Jeremy, would you like to help?
I'm actually trying to see if I can organize a Google Meet with my new credentials. So I'm not positive I have that capacity, but I can certainly find out.
Okay. Let's see.
Jeremy, I'm officed at the Tenney House, and that's where the tech. If you ever want to stop by, and I can show you, Eric can show you anything you need.
Okay.
So
I am a Microsoft Suite, and I am learning Google as fast as I can, and I don't always like it. But
yeah. And if you're going to organize it, Eric Christie would have to give you recording rights. And so if you're going to do it, I'll have him do that for you. But if you need help, just stop by.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anybody from Windsor Southeast who would like to help pitch in on a letter to the task force?
I would also nominate Davis, so I hope he would.
Okay. Okay. Amy, what do you think? Megan, what do you think? You could put it in the chat.
This is Amy. I am in no situation that I could help. So,
okay.
Whoever else from Windsor Southeast who feels that they could volunteer to do it.
Okay. Okay. I've got Carrie, Jeremy, Davis, Anna. Are you in or no?
I'm happy to edit. I am not great at writing things, but happy to read through and see how it flows and whatnot.
Okay.
I'd be interested in
Corinne?
collaborating.
Yes.
Sure. Yes.
I knew it. I could tell. Okay.
Did Davis leave the meeting? So we volunteered
He
him?
did. His computer died, but we have volunteered Davis.
So Elizabeth, if you could send the emails to me, I would be very grateful. And then I'm glad to originate a plan as far as when to meet and to discuss like different times that work for all of us as far as that goes. And you can do it on Google Docs. But I have a Zoom account that's separate from, it's my personal Zoom account for other purposes in my life. So I could do a Zoom or I could do a Google Meet.
It's up to you. We need to make sure that it is recorded in a form that can easily be, that's like compatible with your website, because we're going to want to post these since we've had a quorum.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think we had 8 people from our school board, but so that doesn't quite make a quorum for us.
Okay. Okay. We definitely have a quorum. I don't think Hartford had a quorum.
We have 19 people on our board, so. And
Excellent.
Hartford, it doesn't look like Hartford had a quorum either.
Okay. Okay, so I think we're actually doing okay. So our next agenda, what would you all like to see on the next agenda? You can either shout it out or put it in the chat. Anna.
Forgive me if I missed when the next planned meeting is. Is it going to be before
We don't
this
have a
next
planned
big?
one yet.
Okay. My suggestion is we try to get there again before the I think you said it was the 29th was the next time the task force was getting together.
Yeah.
just to sort of finalize the letter. And I wanted to throw my support behind having Carrie hand deliver it because I think that's pretty powerful.
Okay. And I think I'm looking at right now, I believe they have, I think the next one after that is like October 10th, maybe. Oh, goodness. I can't even look in there because it's going to.
I think you're right on that. I've been looking at those dates and I've been following the meetings, but I definitely plan to be there on the 29th. So I think it would be great to be able to deliver the letter in person.
Okay. So that means that we would have to meet next week if we want to meet again before.
Yeah, at least the people that are going to write the letter have to meet.
Okay.
Do we have an understanding of what they're planning on doing the 29th and if we can flex out till the 10th?
We
with this
do.
letter?
It was at the end of the email that I sent last night. Hang on.
I spend most of my days telling people as per my last email, so you can throw that at me if you'd like.
At the next meeting on the 29th, the task force will review the revised problem statement and goals, discuss proposed modifications of the template and rubric for map proposals, discuss what CTE regions would look like, discuss county level proposals, and discuss whether a map of regional shared services could be a tool for addressing cost, quality, and fairness in
So it
service
doesn't sound like
delivery.
they're going to finalize a map that night.
Oh, no.
So I think if the group wants to flex out until, the 10th to submit that letter, I think that we could probably do that.
Yes, and they are definitely soliciting people's views. I mean, I know that from reading the stuff that I read, that they are welcoming ideas from various districts to say, okay, we want to work together. So the more we can give them what they want, the better off we are.
And
That's definitely.
And the first letter could be just discussing our shared values and that we've met and we believe that we would make good partners moving forward, so forth and so on.
Agreed.
It doesn't.
Agreed, Bill. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be a thought out plan on how we're going to move forward.
I would agree, Bill. Having been part of the 46 and previous, merger discussions, people coming in with a predetermined plan, even though the process was as wonky and weird as it is and was, stood better. So you were right at the beginning as far as being proactive. If we tell them what we expect, we're better off.
Yeah. But if we could get something discussing how we believe we could work together in what we want, and then maybe on the October 10th, flush out some more specific ideas.
Oh yeah.
And deliver another message, a letter, and say, so in addendum.
Yeah. It's sequenced, but at least we're controlling the narrative, and that is the key, because that question that was asked about why the independent schools were funded, Senate Education is made up of 3 members. 2 of the members of that committee were from independent schools. So that's the answer to why that exists.
They're not just from independent schools. They actually are board members.
That's what I mean.
Schools.
They work there. They work there and live there.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that, Coach Christie, because it's very upsetting to me as a 44 years of teaching in the public schools in Vermont. It's really rather horrifying to find out that all of these private schools are getting, and I refuse to use independent, private schools are getting tuition dollars, but they are not held to the same standards as the public schools are. At the very least, they should be held to the same standards and testing requirements that the public schools have to go through in order to validate themselves.
Amen, amen.
Yeah, thank you. And if there's any way I can make my voice louder and clearer, you let me know, because I'm retired and I have time to do these things.
We are definitely working on that, Carrie.
Yeah.
Same dollars, same rules.
Whatever you need from me. If you need me to come in there I'm a real person. I taught for 44 years in Vermont. If you need me, you call me in and I can make my case.
Excellent.
We'll remember that.
Carrie, never go against the family. Never.
All right. So I'm going to hand all of this meeting stuff over to you, Carrie. And what I'm going to do for the sake of informational purposes is that I will just keep a running Google Doc of my notes and different sources, and y'all can either look at it or don't, but notes from the commission and the task force, so that
it's very helpful.
And,
I really appreciated your notes.
And
yeah, very helpful.
And just to say kudos to Elizabeth. She's a consummate bibliophile. So
or anal record keeper.
So it's kudos, and thank you so much, Elizabeth, for that work you've done for us.
Yeah, of course. I want to see this have every chance in the world. So Jeremy, I see your hand.
Yeah. Do we have the ability to share a Google Doc amongst ourselves?
Yes.
Just new to this whole Google Meet thing. So maybe that's how we could start working on the letter of intent.
That is the thing.
Yep. Yes, because we're not a quorum of our boards, we can have a Google Doc amongst us. If we had too many members from each, we'd have a problem. But I think that several of us can do that together
easily. Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
We're never going to get a quorum of all these different groups on that Google Doc. It's going to be fine. Okay. So I can, if you'd like, I can start the Google Doc, and I will invite those of you who volunteered to be editors on the Google Doc. And Carrie, I am handing off to you the organization of the letter and the organization of the next meeting.
Yep.
Okay.
Very good. I will.
Excellent.
I will work on it with my partners here.
Anne Marie, I see your hand.
I just sort of wanted to clarify, because I thought that the idea Bill had was very good. Just getting something sort of preliminary to them through Carrie at their next meeting, and then we can flesh out something more for a later meeting. But I think it's really important to get something out there right away. So I just want to make sure that is the plan that we're going with.
So the first letter, the one for the 29th, is our just stating our intent very simply. It'll be a super easy way to get having volunteered check mark next to your name. Because we just need a couple of sentences that state our intent and that we are actively working together to this end, and that we would clearly prefer the supervisory union structure because it's easier. And then if they make us go down that other path, then we'll deal with it. But for now, one letter for the 29th that states our intent, and then all the flourishes for another meeting or for a second letter that would come before the meeting on October 10th, 10:10. Does that sound all right?
Yes.
Sounds good.
Yes.
Okay. Well, with that, I will end this meeting, and I hope you all have a lovely evening. And thank you so much for coming tonight. I think it was really really good, and it was good to have us all together. So thank you.
And
Bye for
thank you
now.
to you, Elizabeth, for all your work.
Yep. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.